Hi everybody, it's Becky with Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today we're going to make a Barbie doll cake. I have absolutely loved Barbie doll cakes since I was a little girl, and my 5th birthday party, Grandma made me a doll cake, and ever since then I've been hooked. I have done so many different Barbie doll cakes, so I'm going to share with you my favorite method of making the cake. I use the Wilton doll cake pan for the top and an 8-inch for the bottom. The 8-inch on the bottom makes it tall enough so that you can fit a regular Barbie doll in top instead of the little pick doll that it comes with. And this method makes it easier with the Wilton doll pan, and that heating rod in the middle helps it cook properly. But you do not need this pan, and I haven't for those other dolls that you've seen in the past. This is the box that the Wilton comes with. It does make it easier to have this pan, and there's that pick doll if you don't want to do the 8-inch on the bottom. Now what I've done in the past is I've used about 4 or 5 layers of the 8-inch pan. I just carve it while it's been cooled in the fridge, and then you do the carving, and then you do a crumb coat. But here's the Barbie doll that I have. This makes it easier to already have the dome in shape because then I don't have to carve. Now we got to make it a hole first, and I'm gonna crumb coat. I'm just using a quick eye sort of crumb coat. This tip is not necessary, so this isn't the tip that I'm talking about yet. This is just my crumb coater, and I just easily get the buttercream on with my crumb coater because it just goes all the way around. I'll put that link below if you want to know where I got that, and you could just put it all on with your spatula because you have to smooth it anyway to make sure all the buttercream is on there good. But after I use the spatula, I'm going to use this handy dandy cake scraper. I love it because it's flexible, and flexible is perfect for cakes that have shape. So this makes it much easier. Again, something that's not required because we are piping over the top of it, so it doesn't have to be perfect underneath. But I do kind of like to see its shape first, so I'm just going to scrape it with this flexible cake scraper. Now I did get a little ahead of myself because I started putting on the crumb coat before I put the doll in, and you could have some crumbs fall into your cake when you cut that hole. But luckily I didn't. I used my apple corer, and that made a nice straight hole for me. So what I do is I look at the very central location at the top, and I press that apple corer all the way down. If you don't want to use an apple corer, you can use a serrated knife and try to make a hole for your doll with the serrated knife. You want to get some kind of entry, otherwise you're going to press into your cake too much with that doll, so you want to create some kind of a hole. So this ballerina has pointed toes that makes it a little easier for pressing it in, but the apple corer created a big enough hole for me that I could just slide her into the cake using that. Now you're gonna feel the urge to press her all the way down up to where her bodice is. You do not want to press it all the way to her bodice. You want it right above, making sure that her hips stay out. And that is so that it doesn't look like she's missing half her bodice, and it doesn't flow quite as well, I found. So I use buttercream, and I just pipe that buttercream on there, and that kind of helps it flow more like a dress, I find. Otherwise it kind of looks like she's missing half of her bodice once you're done if you press her all the way into the cake. So by piping some buttercream and letting it flow better, and I just use my scraper again to kind of make that flow with the rest of the cake, that creates much more of a dress-like look, I found, and you don't miss half of her bodice. And so there we go. And also, if you've noticed, I chose a doll that already had a painted on bodice so that I didn't have to pipe on her bodice. So if that's cheating, well then I'm cheating. But that's the way I roll. I go with easier, especially when I'm piping a bunch of buttercream. But you can pipe on the bodice if you're really creative and you have more time than me. I am using my offset spatula here to make some lines because that's where I want the frilly part to go. So here's the one tip that we're going to use for all of it. It's the 124. We're going to make sure that the narrow end is going to be facing out. That's going to be towards you. So when we go up and down, make sure that that narrow tip is towards you because that's what creates the frilly ruffle. And you're going to want to shake your wrist up and down. So starting right about here in the back, I'm going to start my first ruffle. And I'm going to create 2 ruffles so that I have this roughly little lacy undercoat around the whole cake. So we're just gonna go around twice, just shaking our hand as we go. Just see up and down with that ruffle. And you might have to stop a few times to twist your bag so that you have a firm press with that. And now we're gonna just continue on that triangle shape that's up in the center of the dress, and this is gonna be the ruffly part in front, and we're just gonna keep going up. Now, if you've been panicking about, I don't even know how to hold a piping bag, I don't even know how to put a piping tip in, I have a whole tutorial just for you, and I'll put that link below on how to hold and use a piping bag. If that is you, that tutorial is for you. I also have my American buttercream recipe that I'm using for this whole tutorial. I'll also put that link down below for you. Now I'm using that same 124 piping tip with lavender. This time I'm going to create 3 pleats using the narrow end out, and I'm going to swipe down and go up to make these pleats. And so the narrow end is going to be towards where those ruffles are in the center, right? And so I'm going to make these pleats straight down, and then you kind of swoop up for these pleats. And I'm going to do 3 sets of pleats on either side of these ruffles. Heading straight down. I'm gonna go all the way down and kind of overlap where these bottom ruffles are, and then just kind of swoop up. And I'm gonna do that on both sides. And this you want to slightly overlap that other one so you don't have a bunch of white showing through, and then sweep up. And then once we get our pleats done, I'm gonna decorate the rest of the cake in back, and I'm going to do that with a U-shaped pattern. And these U-shaped pattern is with the narrow end pointing down, because that's what makes those nice petal-shaped ruffles here. So we're just making those U-shapes all the way around, and then after we get close to our pleats, we're going to kind of overlap a couple of those pleats there. And then what we're going to do is just completely follow that pattern and making more of those petal-like ruffles all the way around the back of the cake. And then I'm going to use some of those petal-like ruffles right at the top to kind of finish off the dress. And I have these Wilton sugar pearls that I'm going to use as little accents, little pearl accents right at the top of the dress, just to add a little something extra to her dress. Give her some style here. Then I'm going to finish off with some diamond dust. This is from the Sugar Arts store, and it's 100% edible. And it just adds some shimmery silver to our cake. And that is our Barbie doll cake. Thank you so much for joining me today, and please subscribe to my channel.